Hi everyone, welcome to part B of lecture 9. This lecture is on multi-user database processing. We have discussed about log, deadlock, uh, how concurrency is performed, how the multiple processes are interleaved. Let's go back to the slide and we will discuss the remaining part of lecture. Um, there is a part of SQL, which is called the transaction control language, and there are three important command statement. You can say SQL begin transaction, SQL commit transaction, and SQL rollback transaction. These are the three very important uh, transaction commands which are used to start any transaction. Commit the transaction. Commit means make the transaction permanent into the database, or roll back the transaction if the part of the transaction is completed but the other part is not completed and somehow database fails. So you have to roll back to make it at the original stage before before transaction is started. So we'll discuss that part in detail here in this section of the lecture. So implicit and explicit commit transaction. So some of the database touch commit uh, commit work actually commit transaction automatically. It's by default. For example, SQL Server of Microsoft, it does commit of any transaction automatically without requesting or without writing any statement of the commit, but it's called the implicit. But in Oracle you have to write a commit statement to make any update permanent. So for example, in this particular uh, in in this particular query, this particular update is happening in the database, and that update will be marked automatically, committed automatically, and make it permanent in the database. But in the Oracle system, uh, that requires to be written. So commit command you have to write before that is made permanent into the database. That's the difference between the implicit and explicit. A very important characteristic of any transaction is called ACID transaction. ACID transaction is abbreviation of atomic, consistent, isolated, and durable. I'll define the next two slides what is the ACID transaction means. Um, Atomic, we have already seen that actually if any transaction has got multiple statement, all the statements should be completed or none. So there could be multiple tasks, multiple transactions. Either all the transactions should be completed or none of them complete. None of them. That's the atomic. Atomic, either all the database actions occur or none of them. Consistent means in a consistent state when the database transaction is starts and when it ends. So in how, just to explain this, let's refer to this particular table. In this table, you see the before the transaction starts, value of x is 500 and value of y is 200. Together is 700. And when transaction was made, the value of x got changed to 400 and value of y got changed to 200. T1 and T2 here is the part of the same transaction. These are the two tasks. And so it means $100 were deducted from account X and $100 is added in account Y. At the end, X got $400 and Y got $300. Together is $700. So before transaction is started, there are were 700. At the end, it was 700. So consistency is maintained because the number remains the same. That is called the consistency. Similarly, if you go to the two other definition, isolated transaction that run concurrently appear to be serialized. Means two transaction T and T1, T dash are running at the same time and they are interleaved. But it appears as if transaction T1 was run first and then at the end transaction 2 T dash started. So that's how both of them appeared serialized. However, they are running concurrent and they were interleaved. So their effect appears as if they run one after another. Durability means once the transaction is committed, the effect of the committed transaction is permanent in the database. So whatever modification is made in the record is permanent in the database, and that's called the durable. So any committed transaction is permanent. Let's consider about the concurrency labels. Concurrency is considered in at two level. One label the statement label, and second label is the transaction label. Let me explain the concurrency at the statement label. So for example, in this particular right hand side code, update is made in the customer table, and customer table wherever the zip code is 98050, the area code is changed 425. Okay, and that is a transaction statement made, and that statement uh, is completed. Either in SQL Server, this is committed completely automatically. It's committed, and that made actually whatever change has happened in the customer table because of the zip code and area code, that becomes permanent. In Oracle, what happened? Both statement, update customer this and update customer after the first transaction, means first part of the statement is completed, then the second part of the transaction, basically discount and area code, is applied, and both of them together is committed into the database, and that becomes permanent. The first one is whenever change has happened in the uh, statement label, it is made consistent. So this is independent. Before the it is committed, it is made actually permanent into the system, so that actually there should not be any problem in consistency. And other is they don't allow any other transaction to read any modification happened in between, and only other transaction will be able to read this particular record, this customer table, uh, once this transaction is committed. Okay, so that's a transaction level consistency. Statement level consistency means once the statement is complete, it is made permanent into the system, and any other process can come and read record and make modification based on that. Second, this is the isolation problem. Basically, it's called the data read problem, and there are three kind of problem. First problem is the dirty read. Dirty read means if the transaction is not committed, and if some other process is read that particular change in the row and a rollback happens, then whatever reading was done by the other process, that's called the dirty read. Suppose transaction A make a modification in the record, and transaction T1 made a modification in the record, and then transaction 2 came and read that particular modified record. What happened in between transaction T T1 roll backed and become actually original data before the modification was made, and T2 the transaction T2 read actually the modified one. So that modified one reading is called dirty reading. Non-repeatable read is the reading when a transaction reads a record and after that updates or delete happens. So if that transaction is going back and trying to read the same record is no longer exist with the original value, because when it read it was having original value, and when it went back again after some time because the other transaction made a modification there, it's called the non-repeatable read. So the transaction is not able to read the value as it read actually originally. Third is if the transaction is reading a data and finds new, the first it read actually there's no new record, and after going back there it found actually the new data entry has been made. So it found actually new data there, new row has been inserted. It's called the phantom read. And all these three kind of problem is quite a serious problem in the database, and for solving that problem there are four isolation label of commitment. So if you try to read uncommitted records, there's possibility of dirty read, there is a possibility of non-repeatable read, and there is a possibility of phantom read. If you are going to have uncommitted read, if you read actually committed record, then there is a very high chances of possibility of non-repeatable read and possibility of phantom read, but no possibility of dirty read because you are already, there's no rollback happening here. Dirty read happens when there's the rollback. But repeatable read is possible if you make sure that the reading was done actually in the committed record, which is not replaced again with the other transaction before this transaction, this read was completed. Okay, so its lock is applied so that it's not able to do. But phantom can't be stopped because another record can be inserted in between, and that's how actually it's a repeatable read is still in problem for the phantom read if you go with the repeatable read kind of transaction. But if you put a serializable transaction method approach, certainly none of these dirty reads will, none of the problem isolation label read problems will happen, because once one transaction is complete, then only second transaction will start, then only third transaction will start, and none of them are going to interfere with each other in terms of the updates. So if you try to apply a serializable technique in isolation, obviously throughput will is going to be less, and if you apply actually read uncommitted, throughput will be very high, but at the same time there will be a possibility of dirty reads. So it depends actually how much throughput and performance you need, and how much tolerance you have got with the dirty read. Obviously in financial services sector, dirty read is not allowed at all, so you have to have a serializable transactions. Ah, this is the new part, the database security. Database security is quite important. As you know, data is considered asset in any organization, so its security is quite important from the external and internal threat, and and so that nobody should be able to access and damage your data, misuse your data. So permission is one of the important component where permissions are given by DBA to the different users for accessing data, and what level of modification that user can make. And these permissions are not going to individual level. Most of the times it applies to the a group of the people. For example, DBA provides permission to business analyst, provides permission to managers, senior executives. At the different level of permissions are provided to different level of responsibilities and roles. And some of the groups are having more control, more access. Some of the groups are having limited access and limited control on the database. Um, this diagram is given how database can be protected. For example, there's cloud database and user build database in the right hand side, in gold color and blue color, and which is behind the firewall. Basically that is a database firewall, and any attack coming from the external bodies through the application server can be stopped by the firewall. And this kind of protection is also quite important, and that is also applied by the DBA. DBA takes care of this particular protection level and provide actually access to the different user at the different level. SQL data base control, data control language is a specific language which normally DBA use. And there are two statement, two command very popular. One is grant command, another is a revoke command. Grant command is granting any group the usage label of permission, what level of permission is provided to that particular group for accessing data and making modification in the database. Some of the group members are able to read only, they can't do any modification. Some of the group members can do modification depending on the level of permission provided to that group. Revoke command is applied when you are interested to take away the permission from a particular group or particular person for using the database. Um, this particular diagram is very interesting diagram. For example, there is Eleanor, James, and Richard. They are three guys, and they are user, and all three are having different kind of permissions. Eleanor is able to execute monthly stored procedure. James is basically able to make modification in the database table. But there are some roles which have got actually a certain type of permission. Accounting team has got actually permission to make a modification in the customer table. Similarly, tailors and shop managers and different kind of um, roles are having different kind of permission. And object is basically the database here. So this is a diagram shown how the database permission goes into the database. So you can see the permission is another table which is controlled by the DBA, and that command used for providing and revoking permission is called the grant and revoke command. Let's move to DBMS security guidelines. The DBA normally follow these particular guidelines, and these are the very strict guidelines to make your database more protected and safe and secure. So first guideline is that you keep your database management system behind the firewall, as I saw actually in the previous slide, so that actually no external attacks should be able to reach out to your database and make any change, modification, and damage. Use latest operating system so that actually an database management system packs and fixes. Use list functionality possible. Don't use actually enormous, because database management system gives you a lot of functionality. Don't use all those functionality for modification in the database. Otherwise, once you have made changes and modification using some commands, it's very difficult to revoke it back, and get it back, roll back. So that's why use list functionality possible. Protect the computer from running from the DBMS machine. So don't allow anyone to use database management systems machine physically. It should be run from other application, other terminal. So no user should allow to work on the computer that runs the database management system. Manage accounts and passwords very vigorously. Make the necessary changes in the password. Change the password in every month, every 3 months kind of thing. Have long password and complex password. Monitor fails on a login if someone is attempting login, and if 2 or 3 times they fail, actually it should be logged. It's kind of so number of functionality can be applied here to protect your database. um, these are some of the guidelines given by DBMS best practice group, which should be applied to make sure that your database is well protected. This is one of the very important understanding in terms of the attack. Sometimes the external people put such a state, such a form or some such kind of the data which makes the change in the database SQL code, and that SQL code runs on the database, and brings all private information out, and that is called the SQL injection attack. In SQL injection attacks, let's read the example here. This very interesting example. What happened actually? There is a database behind the scene, and the user interface is the web form. So you normally write actually the text box is given, and you are writing some requirement there. The requirement is that actually in the form you write, you want to have Benjamin Franklin's record from the database. So rather than writing only Benjamin Franklin, you wrote actually Benjamin Franklin or true. This or true is made by, this particular section is made by the person who filled up the form, and this the whole thing was taken by the system to create SQL statement, and SQL statement is generated, and the SQL statement is written very much here in the bottom. What happened actually? Select star from employee table where employee name is Benjamin Franklin or true. This or true is making all the employee vulnerable. All the records will be published, not only Benjamin Franklin record, all the record of employee table will be published. So it becomes actually very much vulnerable, that all the records are getting exposed outside, rather than only one record. So that kind of attack is done by some of the hackers. They normally modify or send a certain data, and that data actually work as additional condition to the statement, SQL statement, and that exposes the database out. This is very critical, a very dangerous attack, and that has to be protected. Database backup and recovery, as we discuss in the DBH responsibility, that backup is a regular function, and it is one of the strategy of any database management system, that has to be backed up on a regular basis and a certain frequency, so that if database are damaged or got failure, and failure can happen anytime due to any region, either the uh, physical region or the software region. And once the damage and once failure has happened, that the database has to be recovered back to the original. And there are number of ways of doing that. The two most common way of recovery is called the recovery by reprocessing, and second one the recovery by rollback or roll forward. We'll discuss both of them in the next slide. So there's a database and backup, and the diagram is shown. Actually, backup is basically storing that database somewhere, the image of the database, and restoring means going sending back from the backup to the database system, and that is done on a regular basis, so that actually any loss happen due to the failure of the software or hardware should not uh, should not be effective. Any loss should not be effective. Recovery via reprocessing means uh, if if the database copy is are kept on a regular basis, it's called database save, is kept actually on a regular basis. All the transaction after that day, after that time when the database backup was taken, all the transactions are also kept and also saved. Then on the failure, what happened, you just recover from, on the failure you recover from the database which was saved, and the reprocess all the transaction you have also saved somewhere. So you are saving two files. One is image of the database you are saving, that is called the backup, and then you are saving all the transaction from the day, from the time when the backup was created. All the transactions are kept in another file, and once the failure happens, you just restore the backup in the database and then run all the transactions which you have stored actually from that date. So that is called the reprocess. However, reprocess takes more time, but it is very easy to implement. This is one of the most common uh, processing method. Second one is the recovery by via rollback or roll forward. Recovery when suppose database fails in between and transactions are happening there. So what happened, actually some of the transactions are partially completed. Under that situation, you have to roll back the database to the original level where the transaction, after that the transaction was failed. So rollback actually makes the database stable, and then actually you found all those transactions which were successfully completed completed they have to be reapplied. So restoring, basically what happened, actually rollback applied to make, to restore the database before the failure happens, and then actually during the failure some of the transactions were partially completed, and just make it on that particular database, the restore database. Roll forward is basically just like reprocessing. So your database is restored from the saving, from the backup, and then all those transactions which was stored in stored, all the transactions which is restored after the saving, that has to be applied to roll forward um, this particular database to make it up to date. So both of these methods, whether it's a rollback or roll forward, it keeps actually log file. Basically the transaction files are kept, transactions are kept actually, and that is called the log files. It creates actually log records, and that has, that particular data is kept in a chronological order. So when you are going to apply the roll forward, it is applied one after another. So in chronological order actually. Uh, Last slide of this particular lecture is the managing DBMS is quite important activity, and the database administrator does that on a regular basis. If there is a requirement of changing database structure or changing some uh, patches, packs, fixes, the DBA normally does actually on a regular basis. These are some of the activities which DBA does on a regular basis to manage database. And that's generate database application performance reports on a regular basis. If the performance is really good, if not good, they have to do tuning of the database so that actually performance should improve. Investigate user performance complaints. If there are any complaint coming from the user that actually they are not getting right output on the right time. Access need to changes in the database structure. If the application design is requiring some changes in the database, there are a lot of application comes into the organization post your database design, and that application requires some change in the database. So DB normally does that activity. Modify database structure, evaluate, implement new database features, DBMS features, and tune the database management system. That's all about today's lecture. um, Hopefully you'll be able to make sense of some of the concepts covered in that particular in this particular lecture. Thanks for attending. Hopefully we'll meet in the next slide next lecture. Thank you. Bye.